In this next problem, we need to start by turning our equation into standard form. So we're going to do that by dividing everything by 9. So the goal is to make sure that we have our equation set equal to 1. So I've got y plus 3 squared over 9. In the second one, the 9's cancel. We're actually just left with this over 1, and now it is equal to 1. So we want to be careful when we're identifying the center. It's not always the first number comma the second number, opposite sign of course, but we need to check and see where is the x and where is the y. So since the y squared came first, the x value of our center is positive 4, so we need to look at the second quantity. The y value of our center is going to be negative 3. Let's plot our center onto our graph for negative 3. And go ahead and make our box. So in the x direction, we're just going out 1 space. In the y direction, we're going to go up 3 and down 3. Go ahead and draw the asymptotes through the center and through the corners. And this time, since the y squared comes first, the vertices are going to be at the top and bottom, making our curve look like this. Okay, so in order to identify the location of the foci, we need to solve for c. Using our c squared formula, we're going to be adding our denominators together. C is the square root of 10, and without a calculator, we can estimate that to be a little bit more than 3. Since we only went up to 3 for our box over here, a little more than 3 is just going to be kind of right on top of it. But when we sketch the foci onto the graph, it makes it a little easier to think about getting their coordinates as ordered pairs. So we want to think about the center as being the starting location for getting our foci. It's the y direction that's changing. Notice how the x direction stays exactly the same. The x value for each point is 4. So let's just do that. And then for our first point, we're going to start down here at negative 3, and we're going to add square root 10 to get this one on top. And then from negative 3, we're going to subtract square root 10 to get the point at the bottom. So we've got negative 3 plus square root 10, negative 3 minus square root 10. All right, last we're going to get the equations for the asymptotes. Using the new format, the point-slope form, y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x1. So our x1 and y1 is going to be our center. That is just a point that our line is going to pass through. And the slope, m, is going to be plus or minus the rise over the run. In this case, the rise over run is 3 over 1. So for our equation, we get y plus 3 equals plus or minus 3 over 1, just simplifies to 3, x minus 4. And we can continue by actually subtracting that 3. On the end, we've got the equation for our asymptotes. The final problem we're going to look at today is converting an equation into the standard form by completing the square on x and y. So we're going to start by grouping the x type terms together. So we've got 4x squared plus 32x, followed by minus y squared plus 6y. We're going to move the 39 to the other side. Now we're going to factor out the 4 in front of the x squared. Leave a little bit of space in your parenthesis to complete the square. We're going to do 8 divided by 2 squared, which ends up adding a 16 inside this quantity. Now that 16 is really being multiplied by this 4 on the outside, so it's kind of like we just added a weight of 64 on the left side, so we've got to add 64 to the right side. Now for the y's, since this is a hyperbola, we know that there must be a subtraction sign in there. We're going to factor out a negative 1. Completing the square here, negative 6 divided by 2 squared is going to be a plus 9, but that plus 9 is really being multiplied by a negative 1, so it's kind of like we added negative 9, so we've got to subtract 9 from the other side. Now we're ready to do factoring, so we're going to keep the 4 out in front. The first one factors into x plus 4 times x plus 4, so we're going to write it as x plus 4 squared. Bring down the minus sign. The next quantity factors into y minus 3 times y minus 3, so we're going to write it as y minus 3 squared. And on the other side, all of that is equal to 16. Final step to get this into standard form, we're going to divide everything by 16. So the 16 over 16 simplifies to 1, and 4 over 16 simplifies to 1 over 4. There we have our equation in standard form, so if we did want to move forward to make our graph, it would be a lot easier to do this. We could easily see the center, we could easily see how big to make the box, where to draw the asymptotes, and find everything else.